Hi and welcome to the Bookkeepers Podcast. I'm Zoe Whitman. I'm here with Jo Wood and we're joined by Suzannah Whelan from Sinclair Whelan Bookkeeping. Suzannah, it's really nice to chat to you. How are you?
Thank you. Yeah, I'm good, thank you.
Good.
How are you guys?
Yeah, really good. So tell us about your practice and what it looks like at the moment.
Okay, so my practice, I set it up just over 15 years ago now, so I've been going for quite a while. It's just me day to day in my practice, but I do partner with an accountant who I outsource kind of more complex year ends and like more complicated tax work to. I'm based in Billericay in Essex, and I work with kind of a real variety of clients, limited companies, sole traders and landlords.
So 15 years, I mean, that's amazing. You know, as they say, most businesses fail in the first 3 years, so you've done an amazing job. How many clients are you looking after at the moment?
I've got 29 at the moment. They vary in size massively. I've got a big one, which I kind of do like an outsourced accounts department service for. So they take up 2.5, 3 days a week of my time. And then all the way down to sort of really, really tiny ones who I'm only sort of speaking to. I've got a couple who I only speak to once or twice a year. Most of them I'm speaking to on a monthly or quarterly basis at least, and then some of them weekly as well. So there's quite a variety.
What made you start a practice in the first place?
Oh, well, in my previous life, before I had children, so like a lot of bookkeepers, I've come to it as a second career. So I used to work for Channel 4 in advertising sales, which you think at first there's not much kind of overlap in the job, but there's a lot of number crunching, a lot of sort of pricing, a lot of dealing with people and negotiating, and a lot of kind of analysing trends and looking at kind of what's going on. And I was there about 10, 11 years, and then when I had my second child, I just thought it was quite a full-on job. I thought I need to do something else, more local, because I was commuting in every day, and I wanted to work for myself. I'd had a team that had worked for me before, and I couldn't imagine what I was going to do. I thought I've got to do something completely different. My dad was a chartered accountant and he had his own practice for years and years and years. And I thought, I could do bookkeeping. I read something, I saw a flyer or something about bookkeeping, and I thought, I could do that. And I set it up with the idea. I did all my qualifications when my youngest was a baby with ICB. And then I thought, I'll set it up really slowly and grow it really, really slowly as the children get older. And I kind of thought it would be a side hustle. I never saw it getting to the level that I'm at now when I started out. But it, gradually over time it grew. And then once my children were a bit older, I thought I'm going to really push this. And probably about 5 or 6 years ago, I really sort of went for it. And yeah, it's been great.
I think that's the beauty of this industry, is that it can be flexible and you can create and design whatever type of business you want, and there's not many industries that you can do that, so that's great. So you said that you saw it as a bit of side hustle, a bit of pin money. I've heard someone say today, pin money. I love that, and something to kind of keep the cogs turning. I did that when I started. I was like, oh my goodness, I've had a baby, I've lost all my brain cells, I need to work to kind of keep things going. You said 5 to 6 years ago, things changed. So you're a solopreneur, you work on your own, but I know you haven't got necessarily a team of employees, but you've built a community, friendships. You're not on your own in business, so tell us about that.
So I think a lot of it changed when COVID came along. I had already, a couple of years before COVID, I'd started changing the way I did things. So for years I went into clients' offices and worked on their computers, on their desktop software, did that at the beginning. And then obviously cloud software came along, and I sort of thought there was a bit of a journey and a bit of thinking had to go on to see how I could make that work for me. And I realised that's not going to work in the client's office. Using tools that are going to make you more efficient and save you time. When you're charging an hourly rate and you're visible to the client in their office, you need to work out a better way, and it had been really limiting me. I couldn't grow my practice. I was working full time, but I couldn't grow. So I'd started moving that remotely and sort of adopting cloud software, probably about 7 or 8 years ago, gradually. So thankfully, when COVID hit, I think pretty much 80% of my clients I wasn't sort of going into. So that was good. And then going back to your question, so then it meant I could join webinars and stuff. Obviously, you guys started springing up, and that was really good. And you sort of meet people and start chatting with people, and build that online community. And I've gone from there, and that has really transformed everything for me. Having people that you can sort of chat to. I've got my sort of set up a little accountability group, which you probably don't know, with Penny and Kirsty. So we are on sort of messaging all day long. What would you do with this? This client has asked this, and how do you deal with this scenario? And it has changed everything, and it's built my confidence, and it's made coming to things like this easier as well, because I used to go along and sort of sit on my own somewhere, and
you were saying about you had about 80% of your clients on the cloud when we got to sort of 2020, and then I guess you had to move those other 20% over. We've been speaking to people today, we're at the Bookkeepers Summit, and we've been speaking to people today who are talking about, like, how do I move from this kind of legacy relationship where perhaps you're charging by the hour into a relationship where people are on the cloud, they're working in the way you want, you're on fixed pricing. What kind of conversations did you have with your clients at that time to get them to move over? How did you sell the benefits to them?
It was really hard, actually, and I spent a lot of time sort of preparing for it. And I started with a client that I used to go into every Monday, and I used to dread it. I was in there probably 8:30 till 5:30. It was quite a stressy environment. I didn't particularly like it, but it was a good client in terms of, I'd been with them for a long time, and I decided I was going to start with them, and I had to think it through. And part of how I sold them the fixed pricing, moving from hourly to fixed, was that I said, I'm conscious that you won't have visibility over me anymore, and you might not feel comfortable with me telling you I've done X amount of hours, so let's move it to a fixed fee. What I didn't do at that point was articulate what was covered in that fixed fee, so there was a big learning curve that went on with that. And also, I didn't really calculate the fixed fee very well, because I just took 12 months, divided it, 12 months, what I'd earned in 12 months from them, divided it by 12, added a bit on. I did make them pay for the software, so that saved me a little bit. And I thought I was getting quite a good deal, because I thought, well, I'm going to be able to work much more efficiently, and I'm going to still be earning a little bit more. But very quickly, especially once COVID hit, there was a lot of scope creep within that. Furlough, all those things came along. The client was struggling in COVID as well, so they wanted to cut my fee. But I was still doing the same sort of amount of work, because although the numbers had changed in terms of what they were making, the volume of transactions was pretty much the same. They were just sort of smaller invoices. So I had to then readdress that. And it constantly evolves. You are having to constantly have those conversations and look at things and look at what's changed for that client and reprice them.
I really like that, though. I'm not going to be in the office anymore. You won't have the visibility of my hours, and you might not like me coming to you with a timesheet where you can't validate it.
Well, I just thought I could see. I knew what they were like, and they were quite spiky. And I thought, are they going to question everything?
Yes.
And go, well, why is it taking you that long? So I thought, well, rather than have that conversation, we'll make it, and it makes it more transparent. And I think there's a lot to be said for them knowing every month what it's going to cost. So it took a while to sort of get that right, but that was how I approached it.
That was really forward thinking, though.
Do you think?
Yeah, back then, because the conversations we are still having today with people, like, I'm at capacity. Are you charging an hourly rate? Yes, but how do you have that conversation?
Yeah.
So the fact you did that back then and you saw the need, and it sounds like you've really done what you've done really well is think, what does this business need to do for me? And you've listened to when you were describing that Monday 8:30 to 5, you took me straight back.
Oh, yeah.
And I remembered being this tiny thin corridor, And I do remember there was a fridge with Kit Kats, and that
always a
was the
selling point.
only thing that got me through. They were cold Kit Kats, and that was the only thing I was like, oh, I'll have a Kit. Get to 10:30, you can have a Kit Kat. But I remember that feeling, that spikiness.
Monday morning feeling.
And it's horrible, and you think, how do I change this? So the fact you did that is like, you should really congratulate yourself, because a lot of people find themselves stuck for a very long time and don't know how to articulate what you put so well. I really like that about, you're not going to see me.
For a long time.
Yeah.
It did take that. There was a lot of work I had to do to sort of build that confidence, change my mindset, think it all through, think of their responses, and have the confidence. I think you get to a point where you're so fed up that you think, I'm just going to do it.
What did you do to build yourself up confidence-wise? What journey did you go on?
Read a lot of the James Ashford books, which helped, and listened to the podcast on repeat. Not the podcast, but the on repeat. You know, loads of webinars. Followed you guys. That really helped me. I got a lot of value from that, and hearing how you were doing things, and how other bookkeepers were doing things. And I suppose just that, and thinking, well, hang on, I could do this, and knowing the value that I provided to that client. And thinking they're not, they're going to have to accept it, because as long as they still get that end result, it shouldn't matter how long it takes me, where I do it.
Yeah.
They've still got contact with me when they want it. I was always very much like, you can always phone me.
It's changing where we position ourselves with the client. And seeing ourselves, I used to sit there and they used to say to me, I'm going to be charging that person. Oh my goodness, we've done this and we've done that. And I'm like, yeah, you should. Yeah.
But you can't.
And then thinking, I can't do that. And thinking, well, if they're that, they're that strong-willed about them, how, because they were business owners. They were charging high, and their services they wanted to be low, but it's a give and take across the way. And so thinking about the future for you, and today we're at the summit talking about the future of bookkeeping, the future of what's in the future for bookkeepers. What do you see in your future?
Well, I think obviously technology is playing a massive part. When I look at the role of my work today, the role that I sort of fulfil today, and how different it is to the role that I was doing 15 years ago when I first started out as a bookkeeper, I think, well, it will keep changing and it's going to keep evolving, and we just have to adapt and we have to move with it. And like a lot of the talks have said today, there's always going to be need for that human eye and the context and that we can give, that AI and technology can't always deliver. So I think it's exciting. I think our jobs are just going to get more interesting. And I think there's also, I've been doing work with Catherine Frimond on sustainability, so that's another new service or kind of that I'm trying to explore, that I'm going to try and get into. So there's always new things out there. So yeah, I'm excited.
Amazing. It's been so nice to speak to you about your practice. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks for tuning in for this episode of the Bookkeepers Podcast. We've got more coming up from the Bookkeepers Summit, so we'll see you in another episode soon. Okay, thank you.